point to make is that no election in Nigeria since 1999 has been free and fair. There has always been what you might call error margins in all the elections. I remember in 2003, Jimmy Carter led the team of election observers from the United States. And when the election was concluded, Jimmy Carter wrote a report that says the Carter Center that the elections were not free and fair. There were errors, there were irregularity, but not enough to warrant an annulment. That was it. And if you look at this test of the conference very well, in 1999, I made a point which we have not referred to, what we call parted transition. Only two candidates from one part of the country ran for the presidency. All other parts of the country were disenfranchised. When you are disengaging from military rule into a democracy, there are so many, shortcomings. And what elite do, is to guide the process and allow for a transition. And that was what happened in 1999. Nobody, took up arms. But the military wanted to go back to the barracks. But they did a transition program that was very imperfect. Nigerians said, yes, let us appropriate this democratic space and build on it. And I think that is exactly what we have been doing since 1999. Recall 2007 election. It was blatantly rigged. And the beneficiary of that election, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, admitted that the election that brought it to power was rigged, was flawed. But if you look at the Supreme Court judgment, the judgment was to the effect that you should not allow a political vacuum. And that election went on, and the beneficiary said, no, we are going to reform that process. That was the whole genesis of waste panel. The divorce we are talking about today is a consequence of that action, of a beneficiary of an election that was rigged. So what we are saying is that the organic law of the country, that is the Constitution, allows for all sorts of remediation measures to deal with contradictions within the polity. And that is it. Now we have 2023 elections. All of us here, if we are observers and participants in the Nigerian political process, we recall what happened in 2011, the first election between Jonathan and Muhammadu Buhari. The killings across the country, youth couples that were murdered. If you compare that to this last election, the violence was largely infinitesimal compared to previous elections. We have to be frank about these things. But we have actually said, let's look beyond those contradictions and look at the gains of the process. Beavers made overvoting impossible. That is gain. Because, when you look at the theory of democracy and the development of democracy from World War I to date, democracy has moved in the zigzag, curve. That's what we call reverse waves. That's what we call collapsed democracy. Authoritarian, backlash. Military comes back. They do a transition. Democracy comes back. That has been the trend, globally. And so what we are saying is that Nigeria is the largest black country in the world. We have a lot of lessons to teach, other nations. We must provide leadership, and we must resolve the contradictions within our polity in ways that are democratic. That is the point that is being made. Now we are talking about military rule, parallel government. In democracy, that's what we call the principle of loyal opposition. And that is what many Nigerians are not aware of. The principle of loyal opposition, presupposes that in the polity there is an elite consensus. And so when there is an elite consensus, those in power When they deviate from that consensus, the opposition took them up on the basis of that. That, does not exist in our country today. But of course, there is what you might call an unwritten consensus, which is that we have to approach the question of power distribution through democracy. And so, when people talk about forming a parallel government, it is not unknown to democracy. It is not unknown. Mark that word. Parallel government are normally formed by the opposition to put pressure on the incumbent to do the right thing. It is not to the extent of overthrowing the incumbent or negating the incumbent, but to do the right thing. So that we must get clearly. Those who are calling for military rule, they are working on the path of treason.
Right.
That's it. They are working on the path of treason.
Go ahead.
And including those who are calling for interim government, because it will negate the existing order based on the rule of law. So what we are saying is that democracy has long-term advantages that we can leverage on. And I'm sure that what is next, let me give you from the literature. There is a guy called Ivan Toffler, who talks about taking democracy to the technosphere, which is like doing democracy on the basis of technology. You sit down in your bedroom, you punch a button, your vote is there. You don't need to even leave your room. Then you get to a point where you will represent yourself even what in the so-called National Assembly, because you can sit down here and make your contribution, whether through Zoom or other online, sources. That is the motion. That is the direction democracy is moving towards. And people even talked about, the same way we talk about education being taken out of the classroom. That is the direction we are going. So, but I think that what this election has done for us, it has pointed out loopholes in the democratic process that we need to work upon, through agencies, of democracy that are in place, particularly the Independent National, Electoral Commission in the country. We have to deal with those contradictions. And that is it. Anything to truncate the process will do no good to any section of this country. We need to manage the discontents within the polity, on the basis of democratic principles. That is the point we are making. Thank you.